So the movie's Mother, it's coming out next week, Friday. Bong Joon Ho was kind enough to join us on WKCR. So without further ado, here's Bong Joon Ho talking about Mother. So talking about Mother, Bong Joon Ho, thank you for joining us on WKCR.
안녕하세요. 저는 한국에서 온 봉준호라고 합니다.
Hello, my name is Bong Joon Ho. I'm from Korea. Thank you.
So we're going to be working through a translator for this interview from Korea. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about your background. When did you decide to become a filmmaker?
처음 감독이 되겠다고 마음먹은 것은 중학교 3학년 때였어요. 특별히 무슨 사건이 있었던 건 아니고 원래 비주얼한 스토리텔링을 어릴 때부터 좋아했습니다. 만화 같은 것도 많이 그렸고요. 텔레비전에서 하는 영화를 맨날 챙겨보는 습관이 있었고 자연스럽게 중학교 때 그렇게 결심을 했어요. 그래서 대학을 다닐 때 시네클럽에서 영화를 보면서 공부를 많이 했고 또 나중에 코리안 필름 아카데미라는 학교를 들어갔고 졸업한 후에는 이제 필름 인더스트리에 들어가서 조감독 생활도 했고 다른 감독 영화 각본도 썼고요. 그러다가 이제 99년도에 첫 데뷔작을 찍게 됐죠.
It was around middle school, the last year of middle school or so, that I kind of came upon this idea. There was no specific incident that drew me to this, but I was always interested in visual storytelling. I drew a lot of comics, and I was definitely watching a lot of films even at an earlier age. And when I went to college, we set up a group of a film club, a cinema club, kind of fan club kind of thing. And when I graduated from school, I went to the Korean Film Academy, where I did a lot of film learning. Upon graduating, I worked as an assistant director and also worked on some scripts of other directors as well. And that was my beginning of my film career.
Yes. You started off with some short films, right? And then probably Memories of a Murder was your first major. How was that received in Korea?
그 살인의 추억, 그 메모리스 오브 머더가 두 번째 피처 필름이고 첫 번째 영화는 바킹 덕스 네버 바이트라는 프란다스에게라는 영화인데 살인의 추억보다 더 적은 예산이었고 살인의 추억은 한국 박스 오피스에서 되게 큰 성공을 거뒀었는데 프란다스에게 같은 경우는 되게 큰 실패를 했었고 그냥 데뷔했다는 데 의의를 두는 그런 영화였었죠. 네.
Memories of Murder was the second film of mine. The first film was Barking Dogs Never Bite. It was a film that was shot with a much smaller budget, but it also didn't do so well at the box office. But Memories of Murder did very well at the box office, and that was my second film. And it was quite well received, obviously.
Yeah. Of course, your biggest success was in The Host, which I very much enjoyed, and had success, biggest movie in Korea, right? Ever, I think.
As a matter of budget.
No, in terms of success, in terms of box office, biggest success of Korean film, all over the world is being shown. So you, after this huge success, why choose to do a movie like Mother?
그러니까 명확히 말하면은 괴물 이후에 선택했던 게 아니고요. 그 2005년에 괴물이 이제 크랭크인 했었는데 그 전해 2004년에 이미 마더를 구상하고 있었어요. 그래서 김혜자 씨와 이런 독특한 엄마 이야기를 해야겠다라고 이미 2004년에 마음을 먹은 상태였고 그래서 괴물을 찍을 동안 이미 그 스토리라인을 스크립트를 조금씩 쓰고 있었어요. 작가와 같이. 그래서 괴물 끝나고 뭐 괴물이 성공했건 실패했건 그 결과와 상관없이 자연스럽게 마더를 저는 진행했고요. 네, 그런 상황이었습니다.
It wasn't that I specifically chose to do a small film like Mother after the success of Host, but in fact, when the Host was cranking in, it was 2005. I had kind of came up with the idea to work with Kim Hae-ja, the title actress of Mother, already in 2004, and that's when I approached her about the project, and I really wanted to do the film at that point already, before I started The Host. And even while I was in production on The Host, I was already kind of co-writing with my co-writer the story of Mother, bit by bit, and that's when it started.
개인적으로 이렇게 큰 스케일의 영화를 그렇게 좋아하지는 않습니다. 물론 괴물도 뭐 미국의 헐리우드의 관점에서 보면 저예산 작은 영화겠지만 제 개인적인 기준, 한국적 기준으로 봐서는 되게 큰 영화인데 스케일 큰 영화가 되게 그렇게 좋진 않아요. 힘도 들고. 그래서 큰 영화 다음에 이렇게 마더처럼 규모 면에선 작은 영화를 한 게 마음에 들었고요. 그러니까 스케일은 작지만 내용이나 주제적인 스토리의 깊이는 또 훨씬 더 깊게 파고드는 영화니까 괴물 다음에 마더를 한 거는 지금 생각해도 참 잘했다고 제가 개인적으로 생각합니다.
Personally, I don't particularly like to have to work on big kind of movies, but it wasn't that I specifically chose to do a smaller film. But I think, yes, The Host was a big project for me. Despite you might say that it's not that big of a project by U.S. standards or in budget or scale, but even though on a Korean scale, that was a very big kind of film for someone like us and me. The scale of Mother is much smaller, but I felt that its depth and the ideas and the themes that it explores, that goes very deeply into, I think, were very much more so interesting. And I think I'm happy that I was able to come back to grounding kind of film like this after something like The Host.
We'll get to the ideas and the themes in just this moment. But before that, can you just tell me very briefly for our audience, just a short summary of the story of Mother?
최대한 간단하게 요약을 한다면은 엄마와 아들에 관한 이야기고요. 특히 살인 사건에 누명을 쓰게 된 아들에 관한 이야기입니다. 그래서 엄마가 직접 자기 아들을 구하기 위해서 미친 듯한 사투를 벌이는 이야기죠.
To put it most simply, it's a story about a mother and her son, and more specifically, it's about a son that has been wrongfully accused of a crime, and the mother's very desperate struggle to clear his name and right what she feels is wrong.
물론 그 과정에서 여러 가지 많은 비밀들이 드러나게 되겠죠.
Of course, lots of secrets come out in the process of exploring that that we don't expect, nor does she, and that's kind of the gist of the movie.
Sure. You know, The Host is a monster movie. Would you say that Mother could be put into a genre category? And if so, which?
네, 굳이 집어넣는다면은 크라임 드라마나 스릴러 같은 거로 볼 수도 있겠고, 또는 몬스터라고도 할 수 있고, 엄마가 몬스터가 되는 얘기죠. 넓게 보면. 그렇지만 사실은 장르이기 이전에 그야말로 엄마 그 자체, 또는 엄마가 어디까지 갈 수 있나 아들을 위해서, 그것 자체를 실험하는 어떤 드라마라고 생각합니다.
If I had to pinpoint the genre for Mother, I would say it's a crime drama or a thriller. But if you look at it from a larger perspective, you could also say that the mother character herself becomes a monster. I don't know what kind of genre that would go into, but I think what I'm more concerned about here is exploring what a mother is and what kind of person or character that person becomes, and exploring what that means more deeply.
Who did you model this mother character after?
My own mother. joke.
Is it a joke?
네, 그 부분적으로는 그런 게 있어요. 그러니까 부분적으로나 디테일상으로 이제 우리 엄마의 어떤 모습도 조금은 있고요. 또 김혜자 선생 그 배우, 그 사람도 실제 삶에서는 또 얼마일까? 그 아들을 키우고 있고, 그 거기서 온 것도 좀 있고요. 또 대부분은 상상력에서 온 것들이 많이 있고. 네.
There is bits and pieces, some details of my own mother. And of course, because this is an actress that is a mother herself, Kim Hye-ja is a mother herself, she has her own son and daughter. There's details of her as well. But I think it's more about exploring what kind of person a mother in more general thing is. So there's a lot of thinking on my part and coming up with an idea about who a mother might be that I was trying to convey in this film.
You know, of course, everyone in the world has a mother. it's the most universal thing possible. Is that one of the reasons that you chose to make a movie called Mother? I mean, it is the one thing that unites everybody.
예. 처음에는 내 스스로 생각하기에는 되게 한국적인 한국 엄마만의 독특한 느낌이 있거든요. 좀 또 한국만의 약간 이상한 엄마와 아들의 모자 관계가 또 있어요. 처음은 그런 거에 좀 초점을 맞췄었는데 영화를 찍어 나가다 보니까 또 영화를 다 완성해놓고서 보니까 생각했던 것보다 훨씬 보편적인 것인 것 같아요. 엄마 아들의 관계가 전 세계 어디에나 존재하고 약간의 문화적 차이에도 불구하고 본질은 똑같은 것 같아요. 엄마 아들의 관계는 가장 적나라하고 원초적인 관계인 것 같아요. 그러니까 우리 남자가 엄마의 뱃속에 있었다가 나온 존재들이고 엄마 입장에서 보면은 자기 뱃속에 10달을 품고 있다가 밖으로 나온 그런데 또 이성이야 걔가 그게 딸과의 차이점이지 그런 것이기 때문에 되게 원초적이고 본능적인 어떤 릴레이션십이 있다고 생각해요.
At the beginning of when I was making this film, I was trying to convey some kind of very Korean or unique sense of mothers in Korea and the relationship between Korean mothers and Korean sons. But after filming and looking back after the fact, I felt that there's many different universal things that you can find in the relationship of mother and son as well. Despite some inherently cultural differences, small cultural differences, I think the relationship of a mother and their son is something that is very raw and primal. If you really think about it, it's someone that was inside the mother's belly for 9 months or so, and they come out of the mother, and if in case of the son, it's a completely different gender. This is a person that was inside you and somehow is now outside of you, and it's a completely different gender than what you are. And I think that kind of thing is something that's very interesting and the dynamic, and I think that's an issue that I try to come to terms with in this film.
You mentioned that there are some cultural differences between a Korean mother-son relationship and maybe that of the West. Can you elaborate on what some of those differences might be?
이탈리아나 뭐 이런 이탈리아 엄마들 또 무슨 유태인 뭐 비슷한 점이 있는지 어쩐지 모르겠는데 한국은 특히 엄마와 아들 간의 이상한 연인 관계 같은 느낌이 되게 강해요. 그래서 아들에게 연인이 생기고 물론 어느 나라나 그런 면이 있겠지만 특히 좀 강한 것 같아요. 아들의 여자가 생기면 그 엄마와 아들과 아들의 여자 이 삼각관계 트라이앵글이 이루어지죠. 대부분의 대한민국 텔레비전 드라마의 한 60-70%가 그 내용과 그 갈등을 다루고 있기도 한데.
I don't know if this is the same case in Italian or Jewish cultures or even other cultures as well, but I think there's a very specific relationship in the relationship of Korean mothers and sons that this is probably a universal thing that's in other cultures as well, but there's a triangle relationship that happens when the son brings his own love interest into the family or introduces, and there's a tension between the girlfriend, say, and the mom and the son. I think there's that kind of triangular relationship that happens, and you could easily say that about 60-70% of Korean TV dramas kind of deal with or have that kind of triangular relationship in them, working in them. And I think that's a strange kind of thing. But I think it's more stronger. That idea is a stronger thing in Korean culture that I've encountered.
이 영화 마더에도 나오는데 엄마와 아들이 약간 얼핏 보면 약간 연인 관계 같은 묘한 느낌? 그런 분위기. 영화에도 나오지만 그런 게 실제로 좀 상대적으로 강한 것 같아요, 한국에.
And I think there's a strong sense that the mother and son in my film could possibly be romantically linked somehow. I think that's something that's very strong in Korean cultures, and it could be portrayed that way.
So did you mean for it to be like a question that, or unclear if the relationship between the mother and the son?
엄마와 아들 간의 그 관계가 그 모호한 그 면을 의도적으로 그 관계가 모호하게
그러니까 표면적으로 얼핏 보면은 그 러버, 연인 같은 느낌을 풍기기도 하고 성적 섹슈얼하게도 뭔가 같이 자는 느낌인가 아닌가. 그렇지만 그것이 이제 모호한 느낌 속에 남아있기를 원했죠. 묘한 그냥 긴장감으로서 남아있기를 원했습니다. 단정짓기보다는 그 뭐 육체적 관계가 있다 없다 이런.
Yes, of course. I'm exploring the notion whether a mother and a son could be, let's say the word lover, if that could be applied to them. Whether they were sexually or physically involved, I think, are some things that I kind of play around with, but I definitely try to leave ambiguous without me trying to point at one direction of that. And that tension is something I definitely worked with in trying to portray in the film.
You know, The Host, while it's a monster movie, I really felt like the theme of it was family. Would you say that that's true?
네. 근데 가족인데 일단 그것이 월트 디즈니 영화에 나오는 가족 개념하고는 좀 다를 것 같아요. 가족 개념을 확대시켜보고 싶었어요. 물론 가족들끼리 서로 구출하려고 이제 사투를 벌이는 얘기지만 거기 보면 이제 조그만 남자애가 나오잖아요. 그러니까 가족들은 그 현설하는 여자의 딸을 구하려고 사투를 벌이던데 그 여자애는 또 그 쉘터에서 그 괴물의 은신처에서 또 자기보다 더 약한 작은 애를 구하려고 하고 결국은 영화의 라스트 씬에는 남자 주인공이 송강호가 남자 주인공이 그 자기 혈연 관계가 아닌 애한테 밥을 먹여주면서 영화가 끝나는. 그러니까 약간은 확장된 넓어진 의미의 가족 개념 같은 거를 하고 싶었죠. 누가 누구를 보호하느냐 그게 이제 중요한 문제.
Yes, that's absolutely true. But it's probably easy to say that it's a very different concept of family from, say, portrayals in something like a Walt Disney film or something like that. The family is obviously struggling to save their daughter who's been taken away, but when you look at the daughter who's at the hiding place of the monster, you see that the young daughter, is taking care of an even younger little boy. And I think that's the important concept here. Who do you care for, and who do you take care of, and who do you want to be with? And I think it's expanding the concept of family beyond your bloodlines. The final scene of The Host is when Song Kang-ho's character, the male character, is feeding that young boy, even though he's not his own blood. It's a greater expansion of family, and that kind of idea was what I was trying to work with in The Host.
So now, you've taken this theme of family from The Host. You've taken this crime thriller drama of Memories of Murder and kind of combined them in Mother. So what's next on your plate? I'm very curious to hear what you have coming down the pipes.
다음 영화에서는 살인 사건도 없고요. 가족도 아마 안 나오지 않을까. 대신 독특한 느낌의 그 사이파이 영화입니다. 기차에서 벌어진 일을 다루고 있고요. 프랑스 그래픽 노블이 원작인데 지구의 재앙이 와서 이제 지구가 전체가 다 얼어붙은 상황에서 살아남은 생존자들이 달리는 기차에 타고 있는 얘기입니다. 그리고 그 안에서 격렬한 투쟁들이 벌어지는.
I think my next film probably won't have murder, and it probably will not have a family either. And it's going to be, hopefully it'll be a very unique sci-fi film. It's based on a French graphic novel about events that happen on a running train in an age where the earth has frozen over completely. And the desperate struggle of people on that running train and infighting on that train that happens. And I hope it'll become a very interesting dynamic sci-fi kind of movie.
Well, I look very much forward to that, and let me just say it was an absolute honor to do this interview. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you so much to my guest, Bong Joon Ho. Again, the film is Mother. It's being released here in New York Friday of next week, so definitely be sure to check that out. In case you're coming late, Mother is the story of a young man and his mother. The young man gets accused of a crime, and this mother's quest to find out who done it. It's released Friday the 12th. That's Friday of next week. a great honor to interview Bong Joon Ho. I believe that Mother is actually South Korea's submission for the Academy Award for Foreign Language from Korea. Don't know if it's going to win, probably White Ribbon, but anyway, interesting note on that note. But very talented filmmaker, Bong Joon Ho. He's very much becoming very confident in his filmmaking. There's a lot of subtleties and I think risk-taking, which, you know, I don't think he's as confident in The Host. He really displaces the Hollywood genres and really plays around with it, and he's quite good. I enjoyed the film very much, so I hope you will check it out as well. I'm just going to take us out with some more music from South Korea, as it is only 9:52, but definitely stay tuned because we've got some great stuff coming up for you next. I'm Chaim Lazaros. This has been Arts and Answers from the WKCR Arts Department. You're listening to 89.9 FM in New York, WKCR. Please send all love or hate mail to arts@wkcr.org. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight.